All right, today's Sunday, August 18th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. Let's talk through what we're looking at for the week here. So, first, a couple of things I want to highlight are the fundamentals. So, taking a look at the economic calendars here for the US, Canada, and the Euro. US calendar, I think top things we're looking at here jobless claims and flash PMI on Thursday, likely to move the market. We've got the minutes from the FOMC meeting Wednesday at 2, and Jerome Powell speaking at the Jackson Hole Symposium. So that is likely to move markets. And I think, especially when we look at precious metals, gold just actually hitting all time highs and closing really strong on Friday. I think the Jackson Hole speech is usually very interesting to watch when we look at the price of gold and silver and some of those precious metals that are typically viewed as safe haven assets. On the Canada calendar, we're looking at inflation rate year over year on Tuesday. That is likely to, and I believe, yeah, core inflation, and then we have PPI on Wednesday. Those are likely to move the Canadian dollar, which we are still in on a position of. And the euro, I think, top thing that stands out here for the week is going to be that CPI on Tuesday. So, just a couple economic things we're looking at here when we actually look at the charts. So this week, a little bit light. There's not too much that looks of interest here when we look at the positions or the um, positional interest versus the tradable interest. For A setups, I'm looking at OATs, so ZO on the chart here, OAT futures. I'm looking for a breakout here out of the mainly this larger channel that dates back a little bit further to about 2022. I'm looking for us to break above that. But grains have just been getting crushed to the downside lately. There's not a whole lot of movement and really not much going on here. The one thing I did notice is that this is starting to slow the pace as far as the decline, the descent of oats. So we could potentially start finding a bottom here in reversal. It's just getting a little bit weaker and weaker selling pressure. So we might find a reversal at some point here, or maybe a potential wash where there's really a big final stretch of selling before we reverse and close up and start going in the other direction. So going to keep an eye on oats this week. Gasoline, we're going to look to enter. I am looking at this to potentially bottom, especially that we're finding support at the 618 Fibonacci. I would like to get an entry just below this, and we'll have the close or the stop right below those recent swing lows. Energy is very crowded on the short side, so looking to go long, especially with gasoline and heating oil. We won't touch on heating oil since we're looking to enter gasoline. Crude, we had a nice trade there, and it's sold off since contract rolled over. And the last setup, as far as positional interest, is the Brazilian real that I want to pull up. Brazilian real is at, I believe it's about 10-year historic short positioning. So the smart money and the speculators have been shorting this thing so substantially to the point that they're getting extremely crowded. And we've actually seen this. This is actually similar to a lot of the other currencies we saw. There was a bit of this wash and then this push to the upside over the past 5 or 6 days. So I am looking at a potential entry here on the real. I'm not sure when or where we're going to enter, but we're kind of trading in this little bit of a channel here. And I just like the way this is looking. I like the way this chart is looking. So if we could retest the bottom of this channel here and some of this key support and then start to bounce up towards the top of the channel, we'll probably get in on a position. As far as B setups, I won't walk through these too much. We're looking at sugar, 30-year bonds, New Zealand dollar, and cattle. I think New Zealand dollar is interesting. So New Zealand dollar, they actually did rate cuts. Last week, we saw, again, this dip, but then an immediate reversal to the upside here. So I still think New Zealand dollar around the 618 Fibonacci is an interesting level to try to get in at to go long, since speculators are still really crowded to the short side. And cattle, I think, is another interesting one worth pulling up here. So if we look at live cattle, this thing is trading within this channel. And I really like that we've retested the channel. And, I don't like this red candle at close here. Could we break lower? Sure. But if we can confirm this as a support level, I think we could bounce up and start heading towards the top of the channel. And this is another one that is interesting from a positioning standpoint. A lot of people are shorting this thing. I think it could be worth going long if we do prove that this is support and this position starts to reverse. So that's a couple things we're looking at. As far as tradable interest, things that we might want to like intraday trade, I like any pullbacks on the Dow here to go long. The Dow is still a little bit crowded on the short side, but I think if we are continuing this bull market, the Dow is going to start to retest these previous highs. So I would like to see us. I mean, we've had some really strong buying pressure recently. I'd like to see any little bit of a pullback, giving us an opportunity to buy here to go long. I don't know how much more of a pullback we're going to get. This has been a pretty good V recovery for most of the markets. If you look at the Dow, if you look at the Nasdaq, if you look at the Russell, Russell's still a laggard, and S&P is almost at highs. So yeah, I think the Dow has some room to catch up here, but most of this dip has already been recovered. So I'm not sure if we're going to get an opportunity to trade that, but that's an A setup, I would say. Bitcoin long at 55,000. We're still trading in this choppy channel here. It has been showing some bearish sentiment lately, but I am still very much a bull here. I think we're probably going to stay somewhere above 50,000 and continue our way up. We might have another correction here to 50,000 or 49,000, but I would like to accumulate anything under 55,000. So under 55K. Platinum long, I like this as well. I mean, this thing has been primed for a breakout at any point in time. And platinum as an industrial metal, I think, is still, very much important. And it seems like we're starting to kind of bottom out in this channel here. If we look in the daily, kind of the same thing, starting to catch an upside move. I like this thing anywhere around this Fibonacci retracement and lower. So anything 940 and lower is a potential opportunity to start accumulating platinum for a long position to get in and get out probably within a couple of days or a week time frame, depending on how the price action goes. Other than that, I think silver and gold are interesting, but really hard to trade these past couple days. I mean, especially if you look at gold on like the hourly. I mean, this thing is ripped lower, it's come up, it's washed out a lot of the stops, and then it rips to an all-time high. So that's just been a really tough trade to get. Same thing I think with silver. I mean, this price action indicates that we're going lower, and then what does it do? At bottom wicks, it starts to chop up, comes down, starts to look like it's going up, and then it washes all the shorts again. Um, or sorry, it washes out all the stops and then it rips up here to what looks like a pretty strong bull pattern. So I like the idea of potentially going long silver on pullbacks and then shorting gold as it starts to hit the top of this channel here. But it's risky. We'd have to have pretty loose stops and we'd have to have both positions on to kind of hedge each other and try to catch, stop out on one if we're wrong on the direction on one, get stopped out for a small loss, and then capture a pretty big like 2 or 3x gain on the other would be really the play if we equally size them. I don't know when it will make sense to do that. I think we need to see a little bit of some price action that indicates a good entry. Maybe for silver, pulling back here to 28 would be interesting. Maybe gold tagging and having a top wick at the top of this channel could be interesting to go short. If those happen at the same time, I mean that would probably be a great setup, but um, not going to be that easy. So we'll see there. And then I'll review later in the week US dollar, euro, palladium, and soybean oil long. These are just opportunities that I don't think they're not quite there yet. I'll probably take a look again on Tuesday when we do kind of the review again, the midweek review. Palladium showing some strength here. Euro, I think, is showing strength to go long. The dollar index is showing some substantial weakness, and soybean oil is showing some strength to go long. Soybean oil right here, but I don't like how this chart has been looking here. It's also stuck in a channel. So yeah, not sure where this is going to bottom or how we're going to get in the position, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at for the week. So we'll talk during the week, and yeah.